Hello, my name is Carlo Wobiles, and welcome to the June 2016 VIRL webinar, part of the ongoing series dedicated to helping you optimize your use of VIRL. Your presenter is Joel Obsfield, and today's agenda will be covering the VIRL release review, upgrading to the new release, VIRL at Cisco Live Las Vegas. Joel, you have the stage. Take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Carlo. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. And we're going to be taking a look, as Carlo mentioned, at the new VIRL release, which is imminent now. We're doing the final polishing, and this is going to be available for you in the very, very short future. So the focus today is really going to be taking a look at the new features and new functionality that you're going to be able to take a look at. We're also going to be doing a demonstration of some of the new features as well. Going to do that live. Okay, so if you joined us last month for the VIRL webinar, we gave people a view of some of the functions. In particular, we looked at the upcoming Docker support. So that's Docker containers, hosted on top of the CoreOS virtual machine. We also looked at the annotations elements, so the graphic elements within network diagrams, and that was available both within VM Maestro and also within the web editor. And we also took a look at the upcoming support for IOL, so that's iOS on Linux. We're not going to be looking at those. Those were covered in last month's webinar. If you didn't join us, I'd encourage you to go back, take a look at the recording. It's available on our YouTube channel. Instead, we're going to be taking a look at some of the other features and functionality that's coming in this upcoming release. So one of the big items that's coming in is this item highlighted here in green. This is the remote server support. As you will know, we have functionality to be able to launch remote VIRL servers up on the Packet.net bare metal hosting platform, and we've done some work to make that easier. We'll take a look in more detail at this a little bit later today. We also have some changes that are coming in VM Maestro. Some of you may have seen a beta image that was put out a little while back. This is something called the unified canvas, where the node editor panel has now been collapsed out, and we're now able to double click on icons either in our design mode or simulation mode to expand that node and then look at the interfaces and links that are connected to the various interfaces inside. So you can expand all, collapse all, so the functionalities all in there. Some other new pieces that are coming in. So in VM Maestro, there have been for quite some time a number of previously hidden extension capabilities. These have been documented. You can find details of these on the VIRL community pages, but those extensions now are being formalized, so there are actually menu items available. So for example, if you want to send a static IP address for the management port, or if you want to set a static IP address onto the flat network, previously you had to do some sort of little tricks here and there to get those values set. That's no longer going to be needed. There are actually going to be formal menus where you'll be able to pop in those IP addresses, and you'll be all set without having to do any more underhanded tricks. We have an updated icon set, very important. Some updated icons are actually available, going to be in both VM Maestro and the web editor. So a slightly different look and feel to that you've seen before. We've done some work with the liveness detection mechanism. So if you're used to using the live visualization capability within VIRL, there's a function where when the simulation's coming up, the system will actually try to communicate directly with the virtual machines, trying to log in, try to grab some information. And it effectively provides us with a mechanism where we can tell not only has that virtual machine actually booted, but with the liveness detection, has the operating system and configuration then been applied? Is this thing actually up and accessible? So there's some new work that's been done in there. So you'll be able to see not only when your virtual machine goes into active state, namely meaning that it's then booting, but now when you actually get this new reachable message, status message, That means the configuration has then been applied, and then you can log into it. We've also done some more refinement. This started with the last release, the April release. We've done some more refinement to the system upgrade workflow, and that's also extended into the configuration workflow. We'll take a look at that in a little more detail a little bit later today. And a few more features that are coming in. So we now have a mechanism whereby which if you've got a VIRL file, let's say you've got it from a colleague or maybe from one of the Git repositories, you can now do a check to see what is the resource capacity that this VIRL file requires, how much memory, how much CPU, and also perform a check against your system's resources. So you can then see, do you have enough horsepower on your server to be able to run this particular topology or not? So that's a new capability that we've introduced. Again, two more features that we're going to take a look at in a little more detail. One is the topology node count change. The other is the coordinated packet capture. So we'll take a look in those in more detail in a moment. But we've also added a system console to UWM. So sometimes you do need to log into the VIRL server and issue Linux commands. Up till now, it's required you to then have an SSH client of some description to be able to log in or to use the Xterm items that are available on the VIRL server desktop. That we've now added to with an ability to have a console connection directly through the web browser, so you don't need to use an SSH client or use the desktop anymore. You can just use a web browser to log in, and as an administrator, and then be able to issue those commands. So hopefully in those instances where you do need to run those commands, it just makes that workflow that little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to dive into some of the new features, just take a look at those in a little more detail. So that will include the topology node count changes and also the coordinated packet capture. Some more items that are coming in. So XRV 601 and XRV 9000 601, we've had those images for a while. They just came out shortly after the April release. So if you download the new OVA or ISO images, those images, the XRV 601 will be integrated directly, so you won't need to download that. And XRV 9000, that's available already today for download via the normal Salt Masters for download. There is also the new CoreOS virtual machine image. So that's required if you're going to be working with the Docker feature. You will need that because of our implementation, which we covered in last month's webinar. We're doing Docker support not directly on the VIRL host, but within a CoreOS virtual machine. So if you're interested in working with the Docker function, you will need to install that image. Two Linux container images. Again, we mentioned this in the webinar last month. So IOL, so this is iOS on Linux, and the IOL layer 2, IOL L2 image. So that's a layer 2 switch image, both of which has container images, and those are going to be available. Again, integrated directly and available directly within the OVA and ISO images, or available for download. All right, so let's take a look at some of these features in a little more detail. As mentioned, we have an ability, and I know many of our users have had a play with this. Some people are actually using it quite a lot as part of their regular work. The ability to launch a very powerful VIRL server in the cloud using the service from packet.net. That mechanism to date has been either via a salt state and then some command line, some CLI capabilities, or using a special launcher virtual machine, this thing called VIRL Box Cutter. We've now put a web interface in place. So from your regular VIRL server, there'll be a new panel available. And the dialog you can see here, and it's just a case of filling in the various fields. You'll need to get an API key, so you have to register with packet.net to get that API key, and then you'll be able to select the location, Amsterdam, New York, or San Jose, and the bare metal server type and how long you want your server up and running, and pressing that launch button will then take care of the spin up and take it all the way through to the point where that server is then up and running on packet.net. You'll then have the ability to download the OpenVPN file to then get your secure connection into the server. And then once you're finished, literally just pressing that button, pressing the terminate button, will then bring that VIRL server down. So for those people who are interested in having a look at it and just a little sort of wary and cautious of using all the command line interfaces, here's the web interface that will make that process that little bit smoother. We did some changes in the last version of VIRL with the new system upgrade capability. And that's then following feedback from users and just sort of further refinement, we've now put in this kind of progress look and feel capability into the system upgrade. So now when you're doing the system upgrade, you get this progress meter, which you can see here, taking you through the various stages and guiding you through as we go through the various steps of the upgrade. This also, or the same kind of flow, is then present in the configuration workflow. Again, sort of putting it into a state where we then perform the configuration changes, doing some checks, and then completing. So as you go through that upgrade, here we'll see there's an upgrade in progress that gets to the point where it's going to do the reboot. You'll get the notification messages indicating, yep, it's going through, or it's doing a reboot right now, just stay put. And then you'll get to a point where once the reboot's completed, it's going to come up and say, okay, do you want to then perform some operational checks and make sure that your upgrade has indeed completed correctly. So again, hopefully that will help ease that whole process of bringing your system up to the latest versions of code. Major change that we're introducing with this release. Historically, we have looked at VIRL files as one big thing. So if you have a 20 node license, for example, and you've got a topology which is larger than 20 nodes, so 20 virtual machines or 20 Cisco virtual machines, the system will look at it, do the calculation and say, no, there is the potential for you to try to run more. I'm going to reject that simulation. So that's actually been quite constraining, particularly for people who want to not necessarily run larger topologies, but have topology diagrams where they want to map a much larger network, but then only run subsections of it. So with this release, what we're introducing is now the ability to do that capacity calculation on a per node basis. So if you have a 20 node license, you'll be able to run 20 nodes of that much larger topology. So you could have a 40 node topology, and you're just going to then say, right, I want to have these nodes up and running. These nodes are going to be marked as excluded from launch. They're not going to be started, and you'll then be able to run that topology without any restrictions. Similarly, if you had a 30 node license, again, you'll be able to run up to 30 nodes at any point in time. You can then stop those nodes, start other nodes, flip-flop back and forth, not a problem. As long as you stay within your capacity count, then you'll be absolutely fine. New feature that we're introducing, coordinated packet capture. And we're going to do a demonstration of this in a moment. What we've got, or we've had the capability to do packet captures on VIRL for quite some time now, but what we're introducing is the ability to actually say, I want to set up packet captures on more than one interface. I'm interested in seeing, for example, the transactions that are passing either side of a node, or maybe sniffing at various points in the network at the same time. So we have the ability to mark those interfaces, set up the various parameters we want for our traffic capture, and then say, I want to start that start that packet capture now. Push the button and start recording. So that will then run, and then once we're happy with that, once that's finished, we then have the ability to download those files. So we're going to take a look at that function right now. I'm going to push across onto the system I've got running here. So one moment, please, and that should switch over. Okay, so hopefully you can see a Chrome browser. Yep, okay, so for the purpose of this demonstration, a very simple topology, one that we've used before. So I've got my simulation up and running right now. And then what we're going to do is in our simulations panel, so this is in UWM, and here we have our normal simulation status panel. So we can see all the nodes. Our traffic capture area is blank at the moment, and we can see all our various interfaces. We have a new function here, so you can see here it's grayed out for the moment. So I'm going to select a few interfaces. So we're going to do, let's say, from node 1 to 3 and from 1 to 2. And then over here on node 2, we're going to, again, look at that. So we've got 3 interfaces selected. And now I'm going to press traffic capture. Wonderful. Let me refresh that. Oh, it's being a pain. Okay, sorry, one moment. Let's try that again. The joys of live demos. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so that's selected. Oops. There we are. So we want this one, and this one. Traffic capture. There we go. That's better. Nothing like doing a live demo. So we now have this new view where we can now see all of the various interfaces, and we can see those interfaces that I've now selected. So I can change my selection at this point. Actually, I'm going to add in a couple more. So there we are. I want to there. So I've got a total of 6. I'm going to give this capture group a name. So we're going to call it, say, webinar. And again, I have a choice here. I can either capture to a file or to TCP ports. And I can also say start it right now. So as soon as I press go, I actually want to wait a moment, set up the rest of my capture limits and say, right, I'm going to do this just with 10 packets. That's all. So a relatively small number, purely for demonstration purposes. And then say create. Off it goes. And what we'll get, confirmation. So there it is. Webinar capture group was created. And now under my capture, I now see the entries. So we can see the group name. And again, we can see the current status. So they are not running. We can see the nodes against which they're set, and of course the interfaces as well. And once I'm happy with that, I'm ready. Maybe I've got my traffic flowing. Maybe I've got a traffic generator of some description, something like that. And now I'm going to press this button here to start. So that's going to then trigger the process. So all of the packet captures are then going to be running simultaneously. There we got confirmation. So I just flipped to true. And here we can see it started. So if we watch this table, again, we're only capturing 10 packets. So just need to wait for the various protocols that are running across those links to make their way through. And that will eventually go to the point where the busier links are then going to update. So there we can see those 2 interfaces have already had 10 packets. So those have now stopped. And the moment we should get the traffic on those other interfaces, and those will again go through to stopped status. There we go. Okay, so each one of those interfaces then received 10 packets. Now, obviously, if we set up our packet filter, let's say just for ICMP traffic or for TCP, TCP traffic, again, it will just match accordingly. But the key piece is that traffic profile is then being applied to each one of those interfaces simultaneously. Now our options are we can download the individual files, or I can grab all of them. So here it is, a zip file that's coming down. So just going to expand that. And let me just share so we can see that. There we go. Okay, so here we can see that we've received 6 packet captures. And if I double click, open up one of those, here we can see, so there's one capture that's available. And let's say I want to see the other side of that link. So this is from our node 3. Gigabit Ethernet 01. So that's going across onto, let's see, so node 3, Gigabit Ethernet 01. So that's there. So if I now take a look at node 1, Gigabit Ethernet 01. There it is. So now I've got the counterpart packet capture that's being displayed to me. So a range of different possible use cases for this. No real limit as to the number of interfaces that you can sniff simultaneously. The actual amount of work that this requires from the system is actually pretty low. So we really shouldn't encounter issues where this is massively increasing the amount of CPU that the host is running. Obviously, if you're running very large amounts of traffic through here, you're going to be building up much bigger capture files, but that's just a case of keeping an eye on how you're setting up your traffic filter. And certainly if you're saying, oh, I want to gather millions of packets, you're going to be generating much larger files. Okay, so just going to stop that and flip back. All right. So moving on. As I said, these are just some of the features that are there. The release notes will, of course, provide much more detail and examples of the various features and functionality that we've just mentioned, the headlines. How do we actually do the upgrade? So we're supporting upgrades, in-place upgrades from VIRL 1.1.1, so that's the April release, and also 1.0.2.6, so that was the February release. If you've got a prior release, let's say from November or December, in-place upgrade is not supported. Okay, not supported. You'll need to download the new OVA or ISO, and it will be a case of doing a fresh installation. You do need to have communication to a Cisco Saltmaster, and you have to have a valid license key, of course, in order to be able to perform that upgrade. No changes in that regard. When you're doing the upgrade from 1.0.2.6, it's like we've seen in the past. So from the VIRL server panel in UWM, there's the VIRL software option. Click that, it will then talk to the Saltmasters, and you'll see the new versions, new packages are available. Select the package, start the installation, make a cup of tea or coffee, come back, and the new software will be installed. The one piece that we would call out that you're going to need to watch for is the new IOL and IOL L2 LXC images are going to require separate steps that you need to go through. You will not see them initially. So when you're on 1.0.2.6, you will not see those new packages available initially. They will only appear once you've actually upgraded to the latest code. Once you've done that, then those images will be available for installation. And at the end of the installation, you must reboot. You must reboot before you start over. Again, full installation instructions will be covered in the release notes as usual. Similarly for 1.1.1, it's a similar kind of process. It's slightly different because we already had the first of the system upgrade framework deliverables in place. So the workflow is slightly different. It's going to be picking up the system upgrade panel under VIRL server, and then your choice, either core, full, or advanced. Core will just do the upgrade of the Linux operating system and all of the core components within the VIRL system itself. Full will give you the core upgrade of everything that was in the core upgrade, plus a refresh of all the virtual machine and container images. Okay, so if you have existing virtual machine images, they will all be refreshed. Advanced gives you the option to not only do the core component upgrade, but to pick which virtual machine, which container images that you want to upgrade. So choose carefully, sit back. The time required to do this will depend on what your bandwidth is, because you are doing an update of the Ubuntu 14.4 code to the latest version of the 14.4 LTS. So you will need to be patient. Once that's gone through, if you haven't run full or advanced and selected those container images, you will need to install those container images separately. And again, full instructions will be posted once we push the release out of the door. Okay, we're going to move on. I'm running a little bit ahead of schedule, and just talk very quickly about some of the things that are taking place in a couple of weeks' time. We're a very short time now before Cisco Live. We're looking forward to meeting many of you. If you are able to come to Las Vegas, it'd be great if you can stop by, come and talk to us. We love to hear how you're using the system, what you would like us to be doing as we take the platform forward in the future. Yeah, always interested to understand how people are using it. We find people are doing things that we never even considered. So it's always very, very valuable for us to get feedback from you. So do please stop by. Where can you find us? So we will be in the DevNet zone. So the DevNet zone this year is next to, it's in a separate hall from World of Solutions. You will find in that same hall things like Meet the Engineer and also the walk-in self-paced labs area. So it is separate, not on the World of Solutions floor. It's in the room next door. So we have a booth and we'll be there throughout the week. So obviously, please, please stop by, come and have a chat with us. There will be learning labs taking place. So that's literally just walk up, grab a workstation, sit down, and start to play. So if you're new to VIRL and want to have a play with it, just get hands-on. That's a really good place to go. My colleague Brian is going to be giving a series of workshops. You can see the various different topics and times that are there. So introduction, some of the advanced features, and also looking at the API interfaces and capabilities that are in there. So if you're interested in playing around or just intrigued as to, well, what are these API things and what is it that you can do, doesn't matter whether you've got coding experience or not, that workshop is a really good way of just having a look at and understanding how the APIs perform, the kinds of things that it can do, and hopefully inspire you to see what things you can do with those APIs. Couple more pieces. We have a 4-hour, very intense leader-led lab. So that's taking place on the Tuesday. It's a very limited number, it's only 30 seats. That session is now full. I believe there is a wait list. So if it's something that you really want to do, please do sign up. I don't know how many slots they've got on the wait list, but you may be lucky. Maybe somebody won't show, or we don't know, not sure. And then 2 other sessions. So there's a presentation Brian and myself are doing on the Wednesday. That's the Network Simulation Swiss Army Knife. That session, I believe, will take something like 150 people. So I think you can still sign up for that. And then my colleague Ralph is going to be doing the Secrets of Viral Networking. I'm not sure what the capacity is for that. You may still be lucky. There may still be space available. So if you are going to Cisco Live, please do stop by. Really, really happy to see it. And obviously interested to hear how you're using the system, as the things that you're using it for, and things that you'd like to see within the system would be great. Okay, we are moving much faster.
Well,
Q&A, Carlo.
Thank you, Joel. We do have one question I'd like to talk about is, will slides from this presentation be available either as a PDF or a PowerPoint afterwards? And if so,
Yes.
where will it be available?
Yeah, so we post all of that material, so it'll be in a number of different places. So the webinar recording, so obviously the audio pieces as well, will be available up on YouTube as usual. And we will post the transcripts, the Q&As, and any of the questions that we haven't been able to answer during this session, we will do our very best to answer and get that posted. So that's going to be on the Learning Network community site. So there will be a posting once that information goes up. And yeah, we will make sure that the slides are there and the Q&A transcripts that accompany it.
Perfect, perfect. And just one thing, in regards to the demo you showed earlier.
Yes.
One viewer asks, how do you get the cool CPU, the network and memory live usage in the menu bar? Can you show us?
Oh, right, sure.
Show
Okay. No problem. Okay, hang on a moment. We'll flip back. Okay, so Chrome. Okay, so right, let's go back. So this is the use WM interface. So if I take a web browser and I point it to the IP address of my VIRL server and I log in, you should then get this panel. The view may be slightly different. Obviously, we're running on newer code than is currently available in public. But this view with the system tools and resources has been in place for a while. So unless you've got some very old code, you should have something which will report this. So you need to go in, point a web browser, log in, UWM admin or maybe as guest or whatever other profile you've set up, and then you should be able to see. So here we got simulation that's actually running, and then here. Oh, sorry, Alejandro was just saying you think that the the CPU meters. So this, if that is what's being talked about, I'm not sure if you can see that. Hold on, let me switch the desktop. Okay, let's see. So I think, so Alejandro thinks it may be this CPU meter. So this is just a plugin for the Mac. I think it's called CPU meter, something like that. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, yeah, I can't remember. It's a plugin that I have. Yeah, not sure. But anyway.
Thank you. We do have one more from Charles. Is it possible to do an ACI simulation?
Okay. So there are a number of components within ACI. And I'm no expert on this, so you'll have to forgive me if I get some of this wrong. So you've got controllers and you've got switch devices. There are simulation systems that are already available, nothing to do with VIRL, but there are systems that can give you a cut down simulation version of an ACI environment. Now, the APIC controller, so APIC EM, is available, but the controller itself is a beast. It's something like a 250 gig machine image. So it's not something that the typical VIRL server could even run if you wanted it to. However, as a separate virtual machine, so have that communicate using the flat connection option into the virtual machines running under VIRL. Now, my understanding, and again, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not an expert on this stuff, the controller needs to understand what it is actually talking to. So today, I don't believe that the APIC controllers can actually talk successfully and really understand what the layer 2 switches actually are. However, with the Nexus devices, not the Nexus 7000 image that we currently have today, but the Nexus 9000 that we're expecting to see towards the back end of this year, right? So literally towards sort of November, December timeframe. My understanding is that that virtual machine will indeed work in conjunction with the controllers. So no guarantees. I mean, we're still quite a way away from November, December, but that virtual machine image, providing that switching capability, I believe will work in conjunction with those controllers. As I said, I'm not an expert at all on the ACI stuff, so I may have got this very badly wrong, in which case I apologize. We'll take a look at trying to clarify all of that in the Q&A as well.
Thank you very much, Joel. Malcolm asks, are there any plans for firepower to be available in VIRL?
So the firepower and the security images, the way that this has been working is it's very much a case of when an appliance team have a virtual machine image, then we're able to pick that up. However, as you may be aware, there are images, and for example, the wireless LAN controller is one of these, which requires time-based, date-based license keys to be used. That doesn't really work very well at all with the environment that we have here within VIRL. So we do try to, as much as we can, influence the product teams to do something like we've seen with systems like the ASAV, where it will run without any form of license key in a cut down, maybe forwarding rate controlled or session limit controlled form, but at least in a manner which is useful without the need to have any kind of additional license key or anything which is date-based installed. So with respect specifically to firepower or any of the other security appliances, yes, the teams are aware of VIRL, they are cognizant of it, but we have relatively little influence. Actually, you as customers have much more of an ability to influence the product teams. So if you have access to Cisco account teams, and this is something that you think would be specific, as particularly useful for your specific environment, please, please, please talk to the account teams. They can then talk to the appliance teams, and try and push as much pressure on them to modify the appliances so we can get those plugged in. I would, though, just note you can have, in something like the Firepower or maybe the Ironport systems as well, have those virtual machines running on an ESXi server and have them talking to simulations that are running in VIRL. It is possible. We've done demos of this. There's been a really good write-up from Alejandro on how to do that external connectivity, connections between a simulation running on VIRL and other devices. So you can absolutely connect those kinds of appliances to simulations that we have that you have running in VIRL.
Thank you. Another user asks, how about the Nexus 2K? Will that be available in VIRL?
So there is work that is going on within the Nexus team. The focus is very much on the 9K and I believe the 8K platforms. 2K has been mentioned, but we're talking again towards the back end of this year, the first of those virtual machines will become available. Some people may be aware there is already a 9K image in what they call controlled availability. So these are effectively beta customers who have a 9K image in use right now. But specifically about 2K, it has definitely been mentioned. There is work that is ongoing, but no commitments at this point in time. And even as I said, that we're talking about a 9K image towards the back end of this year. I wouldn't want to hazard a guess as to when a 2K image may be forthcoming, but there's definitely work happening for 9K, for 8K. So yes, 2K has also been mentioned in that regard.
Thank you very much, Joel. And I believe that is it for our Q&A portion.
Great. Okay. Well, that's been a slightly shorter webinar than usual. As I said, we are polishing up the VIRL release. We hope to have that out the door very, very soon. There will obviously be the announcement once that goes out, and that's available for everybody to pick up. And just before we close out, just a reminder of various links that may be useful for you. The various websites, the support forum, just a reminder, the support forum has moved from the old site to the new learning network. If you joined us last month, Matt from the CLN team did a good walkthrough. There's a lot of information in that last month's webinar that covers all the capabilities and functionality that you'll find there. And with that, we're going to close out. I'd just like to thank my colleagues who've been helping handle the Q&A today, and also Carlo, thank you for hosting that. And,
thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to everybody either at Cisco Live, if you're coming, that'll be fantastic. Do drop by. Otherwise, we'll on next month's webinar.
Definitely. We hope you enjoyed this informative session and encourage you to continue the discussion on the Cisco Learning Network. See you on our next webinar. Thank you.